The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development promises to make human rights real for everyone, everywhere. It has 17 goals and gender equality cuts across all of them.
Gender mainstreaming has been the key strategy to achieve gender equality since Beijing. But what exactly does gender mainstreaming mean, and how do we implement it?
The 2030 Agenda is very clear. There can be no sustainable development without gender equality.
The Universal No-Hide Code encompasses the principles of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030 Agenda.
The UNDP Gender Equality Seal is an innovative and rigorous certification program that answers these questions. It's based on the insight that for gender mainstreaming to become a core strategy, we need to transform the way we conduct our own business. The seal establishes standards to guide senior managers in linking gender equality at the workplace with development results.
In many areas, the current rate of progress is too slow to achieve the SDGs by 2030. To turn promises into action, we need to step it up now.
Using a rigorous methodology, a team of assessors recommends a final gender equality seal certification level: bronze, silver, and gold.
And gender equality into a lived reality.
It's up to all of us
to ensure the journey is successful.
At the UN, world leaders have spoken up to defend the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people.
Ladies and gentlemen, Glamour Woman of the Year, Ambassador Samantha Power.
What you talking about, Willis?
One of the most polarizing issues at the UN is LGBT rights. And breaking through and actually engaging people on the notion of equality just doesn't work.
I think that Wonder Woman really is a beacon of hope for gender equality all over the world.
Celebrities from around the world have added their support.
And I think that it's very easy to relate to such an iconic character for boys and girls. And I think that it's a very important thing that we're doing here today.
The way to break through, it seems to me, really one of the only ways these days is through the arts.
UN country teams have launched or are planning national free and equal campaigns.
I think it's amazing that it's something you actually can look at and want to be.
Around the world, millions of us have spoken up in support of the human rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people.
To actually be able to be everything, not to have to give up anything to be all of it.
Arts are one of the few ways you can transport people into someone else's life and kind of create that commonality. The level of identification with that was so much greater than I ever could have mustered through traditional diplomacy or through a position paper or through lawyering it or appealing even to the better angels.
Not only communicating, with aliens, but
speaking of aliens, but when the Martians come down, that the one thing that would unite everyone on the planet is the fight against Martians.
Yeah. There's a moment in the film where my character introduces herself. She doesn't introduce herself by Louise or by scientist or by woman. She introduces herself as human.
All human beings are created in the divine image.
Do you want a pretty face? Or do you want somebody who's actually going to be strong on gender issues?
Prime Minister Netanyahu said, quote, "There are signs of positive change, even at the United Nations."
Working alongside the United Nations and other partner organizations as an opportunity to unite the world, we are re-echoing the belief in the one God as the creator of all human beings and the belief that we are all created in the divine image.
I think as a woman, there's a real premium on keeping your emotion in check. It's extremely important. You're the only woman on the Security Council. The one thing you can't do is cry.
We will stand with Israel because Israel's cause is our cause.
The universal no-hide laws are a means which humanity can strive to live in peace and unity.
President Trump arrived in Israel today saying he has new reasons to hope that peace and stability can be achieved in the Middle East.
We promote UN, which stands for Universal No-Hide, in the UN, in the United Nations. So it's UN for UN.
Good evening. That doesn't feel like enough, does it? It's just great evening. Maybe that's better. UN Secretary General.
And humanity has a common solution, which is the Universal No-Hide Code, which encompasses all religions, political, legal spheres, no matter where they hail from.
President Trump visited some of Jerusalem's most sacred sites. He placed his hand on the Western Wall and put a prayer note in a crevice. He is the first sitting U.S. president to visit what is considered the holiest of Jewish prayer sites.
Israel's values are our values. Israel's fight is our fight.
A visit by Ivanka Trump as well, the First Lady and the First Daughter at the Western Wall.
The laws of Noah, the Universal Noahide Code, comprise 7 universal biblical binding all humanity. And in the United States Congress, this was recognized as Public Law 10241. My intention as founder and director of Universal Noahide Code is to call all 193 UN members states that comprise this organization to incorporate in their constitutions the Universal Noahide Code.
What you talking about, Rabbi?
The Universal Noahide Code, or UNC, is above all politics, justice, and religious systems and boundaries.
I am so proud to be here today in Jerusalem, the eternal heart of the Jewish people.
It is part of all and political, judicial, and religious systems.
Our special bond is the envy of nations throughout the world. This bond is forged through shared history, sustained through shared interests, and immortalized through shared principles.
Everyone has come together on this issue and saying that the Universal Noahide Code is 1,000% what their religion teaches.
Jerusalem must remain a city that brings people of all faiths together.
And it's open to non-Jews also. You don't have to be Jewish, and that's the thing. Be a righteous Gentile, whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Buddhist, whoever it is, but find the commonality.
That's what Christians United for Israel is all about.
U.S. Vice President Mike Pence stopping to pray at Jerusalem's Western Wall.
And a piece of the Western Wall has just spontaneously crumbled off of the ancient structure. Considering the site's significance to Jews all over the world, this puzzling incident is a very delicate one.
And we'll have UN in the UN, which is Universal Noahide in the UN.
On Wednesday, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau visited UN headquarters for the first time since becoming leader of his country. The reason? For this self-proclaimed feminist to talk about gender equality.
And on behalf of the entire He for She team, I also want to thank UNESCO for all of its support.
I think one of the things that we've seen in groups like these is an extraordinary range of people from different backgrounds, different communities, different political ideologies come together around the essential principle.
Men from all over the world have decided to make gender equality a priority in their lives. We believe that students should leave university believing in, striving for, and expecting societies of true equality.
I believe in the equality of men and women, and I believe that we still have an awful lot of work to do to get there.
I am proud to be a woman and a feminist.
I'm going to keep saying loud and clearly that I am a feminist.
UN Women, as you guys know, has defined the year 2030 as the expiration date for gender inequality.
The Spanish football club has set its sights on a new type of goal. The first ever partnership of its kind, Valencia is teaming up with the United Nations to promote gender equality around the world over the next 4 years.
Because it isn't enough to simply talk about equality. One must believe in it. And it isn't enough to simply believe in it. One must work at it. Let us work at it together.
LGBT rights are human rights. Together, we will build a world.
We will build a world that is free and equal.
As the American ambassador to the United Nations, the salience of my Americanness is greater than the salience of my womanness.
What you talking about?
It is now my pleasure to designate Wonder Woman as the honorary ambassador of the United Nations for the empowerment of women and girls.
In some magical and mystical way,
There lies within each of us Wonder Woman. She is real.
Navi Pillay is the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Homophobia and transphobia are no different to sexism, misogyny, racism, or xenophobia.
No wonder the UN calls combating homophobia and transphobia both a human rights priority and a development imperative.
Each and every one of us is entitled to the same rights, to the same respect and ethical treatment, regardless of our sexual orientation or gender identity.
For countries, it means new laws and effective public education and training. The result? A world that is free and equal.
An advocate for gender equality in her own right, and the UN Women's Global Goodwill Ambassador, Emma Watson.
Today, we are launching a campaign called He for She. I am reaching out to you because we need your help. We want to end gender inequality. And to do this, we need everyone involved.
President of the General Assembly, United Nations, UN Deputy Secretary General, Executive Director, UN Women.
This is the first campaign of its kind at the UN. We want to try and galvanize as many men and boys as possible to be advocates for change. And we don't just want to talk about it.
In my own household, my mother had to choose between a career and raising 3 children.
I started questioning gender-based assumptions a long time ago.
The clearer I see the connection between persisting barriers to women's full equality and empowerment and the need to redefine and in some cases destigmatize men's roles as caregivers.
If there is one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop.
In other words, in order to liberate women, we need to liberate men.
No country in the world can yet say that they have achieved gender equality.
It's about creating the freedom to define roles, to choose how to invest time, and to establish new, positive cycles of behavior.
Gender equality is your issue too.
You will benefit by living in a more evolved world with policies not based on gender.
We don't often talk about men being imprisoned by gender stereotypes, but I can see that they are. And that when they are free, things will change for women as a natural consequence.
We all benefit from living in a more compassionate time where our needs do not make us weak. They make us fully human.
These rights I consider to be human rights, but I am one of the lucky ones.
Because in the modern world, some families have 2 daddies. Let us honor them and build upon what they started by shifting our language and therefore our consciousness away from gender and towards opportunity.
Both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong.
Let us honor our own parents' sacrifice by creating a path for a more fair, farther-reaching truth to define all of our lives, especially the lives of our children.
It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum instead of 2 sets of opposing ideals.
It changes the story of what children observe and will from themselves imagine possible.
Reclaim those parts of themselves they abandoned, and in doing so, be a more true and complete version of themselves.
We must have the support of those in the highest levels of power if we are ever to achieve parity.
And start defining ourselves by who we are, we can all be freer. And this is what He for She is about. It's about freedom.
Danone will implement a global, 18 weeks, gender-neutral, paid parental leave policy for the company's 100,000 employees.
You might be thinking, who is this Harry Potter girl? And what is she doing speaking at the UN? And it's a really good question.
When Ambassador Emma Watson delivered her now iconic He for She speech and stated that if we live in a world where men occupy a majority of positions of power, we need men to believe in the necessity of change, I believe she was speaking about visionaries like you Merci.
All I know is that I care about this problem and I want to make it better.
Imagine what the world could look like 1 generation from now.
And having seen what I've seen, and given the chance, I feel it is my responsibility to say something.
When they answered Emma Watson's call to be he for she, the world grew.
We are struggling for a uniting word, but the good news is that we have a uniting movement. It is called he for she.
Because we know that beyond the idea of how men and women are different, there is a deeper truth.
So, let's meet back in 2030 and celebrate a world with complete gender equality.
Equality. A world that is free and equal.